Alright, so next up is specification number 4, which asks us to outline the subsequent use and storage of the carbohydrates that are produced during photosynthesis. In simple terms, this part focuses on what happens to glucose, the main product of photosynthesis, how it's used and where it goes in the plant. So, we'll look at these 4 key ways plants use glucose. First, how it's converted into starch and stored as an energy reserve. Second, how it's used to make cellulose for building cell walls. Third, how it's broken down in respiration to release energy. And finally, how it's changed into sucrose for transport through the plant. Let's go through each of these uses and understand how glucose supports the plant in so many important ways. Talking about the use and storage of carbohydrates, mainly glucose, which is the main product of photosynthesis. If you look at the diagram here, it summarizes 4 main ways glucose is used in plants. First, the diagram shows that glucose is used in respiration. This means it's broken down to release energy that the plant needs for essential functions like growth, repair, cell division, and active transport. So the first key role of glucose is as a source of energy, it's the plant's fuel. Second, glucose is used to make cellulose, which is shown in the diagram under its structural role. Cellulose is the strong, fibrous material that builds and reinforces the plant's cell walls, helping it maintain shape and stand upright. So here, glucose acts as a building material. Third, the diagram points out that glucose is converted into sucrose for transport. Since glucose isn't always needed right where it's made, the plant changes it into sucrose, a more stable sugar. This sucrose is then transported through the phloem to other parts of the plant, like roots, growing tips, or fruits, where it can be used or stored. So, this highlights glucose's role in distribution and transport. And fourth, any excess glucose is stored as starch, as the diagram indicates. Starch is stored in parts like roots, seeds, and tubers, and because it's insoluble, it doesn't interfere with the plant's water balance. This makes it ideal for long-term energy storage, especially for times when the plant can't photosynthesize, like during the night. So, in summary, this diagram gives a clear visual overview of how glucose is used for energy, structure, transport, and storage, all depending on what the plant needs at any given time. It really shows how versatile and essential glucose is to a plant's survival. Let's begin with starch as an energy store in plants. The glucose produced during photosynthesis doesn't always get used right away. Instead, plants often convert glucose into starch, which serves as their main storage form of carbohydrates. Now, starch is a polysaccharide, meaning it's made up of long chains of glucose molecules. It's stored in 2 forms, amylose and amylopectin, as you can see in the image here. Amylose has a straight, unbranched structure, while amylopectin is branched, allowing for compact storage. An important feature of starch is that it's insoluble, so it doesn't dissolve in water. This is crucial because it doesn't disturb the water balance inside plant cells, unlike soluble sugars might. Starch acts as an energy reserve that the plant can rely on when light is limited, such as at night or on cloudy days when photosynthesis slows down. In short, starch allows the plant to store energy efficiently and access it later when it's needed most. Next, let's talk about cellulose and its role in building cell walls. Plants use glucose not just for energy, but also to synthesize cellulose, which is the key material used to build and strengthen cell walls. Cellulose is a complex carbohydrate, made up of long, tightly linked chains of glucose molecules. As shown in the diagram here, its structure is rigid and fibrous, which makes it ideal for providing mechanical strength to plant cells. This strength is vital. Cellulose helps the plant maintain its shape, gives it structural support, and allows it to withstand physical stress from things like wind, water pressure, or even its own weight. So in summary, cellulose, built from glucose, is absolutely essential for the plant's stability and integrity, forming the framework that holds everything together. Talking about how glucose is used in respiration to provide energy. Glucose produced during photosynthesis is immediately available to be used in respiration, where it's broken down to release energy for the plant's many metabolic needs. As shown in the image of the mitochondrion, this is where respiration takes place inside plant cells. The energy released supports vital processes like active transport, water uptake, protein synthesis, and growth. Glucose can either be used right away or converted into other forms depending on the plant's needs. And it's important to remember that respiration is a continuous process. It happens even when photosynthesis stops, such as at night, ensuring the plant always has the energy it needs to function. So, in short, glucose is the plant's main energy source, and respiration is the key process that unlocks that energy. And finally we have sucrose, which is used for transport throughout the plant. Plants convert glucose into sucrose, which is a disaccharide made up of 1 glucose and 1 fructose molecule, as shown in the structure here. Sucrose plays a key role in transporting carbohydrates through the plant. It's the main sugar moved around via the phloem, the plant's internal transport system. It's mostly produced in the leaves, where photosynthesis happens, and then transported to other parts of the plant like the roots, stems, and developing fruits. One of the reasons sucrose is ideal for this function is that it's soluble, so it can move easily through plant tissues in solution. Once it reaches its destination, it can either be used immediately for energy or converted back into glucose for further metabolic activities. So, sucrose acts as the plant's delivery system, efficiently carrying energy from where it's made to where it's needed. So overall, when we look at the use and storage of carbohydrates in plants, it all starts with glucose, the main product of photosynthesis. This glucose is incredibly versatile. It's used in respiration to release energy needed for various plant functions. Some of it is turned into cellulose to build and strengthen the cell walls. For transportation around the plant, glucose is converted into sucrose and moved through the phloem. It can also be stored as fats and oils, particularly in seeds, and combined with nitrogen to form amino acids and proteins that make up the protoplasm. Glucose also plays a role in forming essential structural and functional polymers. And finally, for long-term storage, multiple glucose molecules join together to form substances like starch, glycogen, and sucrose. This gives us a full picture of how carbohydrates are used and stored in plants.